Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is the next of our What's on Your Mind hangouts from APHE, and this morning's discussion is with Cristian Juriji, who I'd like to introduce. Good morning, Cristian.
Morning, Richard.
Hello. Cristian is going to be discussing his experiences of the recent APHE Photomeet that he went to as a result of the APHE bursary. The What's on Your Mind hangouts are basically about our contributors discussing their experiences, their practice, their involvement in photography. These hangouts are here for short and informal, and they're currently being broadcast live and archived on the APHE YouTube channel, so they can be viewed again and again or at some point in the future. So as I've already mentioned, this morning's contributor very kindly is Cristian. Cristian Juriji is a third-year student at the University of Portsmouth.
Right.
And yes, and as already mentioned, Cristian received the APHE bursary to attend this autumn's Photomeet portfolio review, organised by, amongst others, Freddie Spencer of the 2020 Photo Agency. So it's a great pleasure to welcome Cristian, and I'd like to ask you to start to talk about your experience, please, Cristian.
All right. Yeah, what should I start with? It was really great. I mean, in terms of the whole event, in terms of the organization, the activities during the reviews and after the reviews. Even though it was a little bit stressful at the beginning, not being from London and having to take the coach each morning, it was quite stressful, but they've had a lot of coffee. Hope next year they'll charge for it. It nearly destroyed me. It was quite a change because it was the first time I've had the opportunity to showcase the work I'm currently working on, which was surprisingly good in terms of how the reviewers reacted to it. The best thing is, I think, that not all the reviewers have been in the niche I've chosen, like in the more conceptual approach of photography, which was somehow an advantage in terms of if someone from a different niche recognizes something in your work, that means it has to have some potential, which would be a difference towards the experience here at the university, where most of my tutors really engage with conceptual ideas and more abstract thinking.
How did you prepare for it? How did you prepare for the actual sort of sitting down with someone? How did you kind of practice any kind of sort of presentation or anything like that?
Not really. I've just thought the presentations I've had already at the university were more than enough. It was, of course, a lot of repetition in the reviews, which, interesting enough, changed the idea with each reviewer, which made me think a lot more about my work. After repeating the same idea, it somehow has to change, which made me take another look at my work in a more broader engagement.
Did you show prints, Cristian?
Yeah. Mostly of them were quite large prints, which was not really handy, being somehow a waste of space, having in mind that it should be a portfolio. But in my work, it somehow represents a statement.
I see. So you felt, rather than make the prints smaller so that they would be more handy, you kept them quite big because you felt that was the way the work needed to be seen.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, again, because it's interesting, because one of our previous bursary winners, Catherine Innocent, talked about this, about how important it is to have the prints smaller so they can be handy, but it's not always based on your experience.
It really depends on the niche. And I mean, Recently, it's quite obvious that it became a trend to do it quite large since the glorious days of Dostoevsky. Yeah, streaming.
Okay. So what else happened during? So you're saying that a lot of the feedback was, if I understand, was quite similar, but that was quite interesting in the way that it made you think about the work.
Yes, indeed. There was somehow a variety between them, so the reactions were quite mixed, which in the end helped me again. That perception.
Can you talk a little bit about both positive feedback in those kind of situations, and then maybe the more sort of negative feedback? How was that experience? What did that feel like?
I mean, I've understood some of the negative reviews, which I can't deny that there were some. But in the end, they help. They help more than the positive ones sometimes. You become quite aware of these mistakes you do before, but it's quite interesting to hear them interpreted by someone who has experience and by someone who possibly made mistakes himself. So it's always something good to hear something bad. I mean, that's the thing I think about art. You can please anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that the comments are constructive, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, like you say, it's very important. And again, with these kind of sort of situations, people watching them in the future may well be students getting ready for a portfolio review. What good advice do you think? I mean, you've already talked about it a little bit, but what advice would you give to someone maybe who's going to maybe getting ready to just in the near future go out and show their work to some quite interesting people who have quite well proven in the kind of professional environment of photography?
Well, I think one of the advice I could give is to gain your confidence through studying your work a little bit more profoundly, which, like I said, I quite struggled at the beginning because I always try to change the vision depending on the reviewer, which isn't really good. You should just stick to your prior idea and always make it seem so solid as possible. Otherwise it just bursts into pieces and then you get confused, as the reviewer might get confused as well. So yeah. So not really preparation in this sense, but just engagement in your own work, which is essential in this kind of medium.
I mean, again, I know you've kind of mentioned this already, but what have you learned as a result? Now you look back, maybe because it's nearly a month ago now, isn't it, that it happened?
It is.
Looking back on it, what other things that maybe at the time you didn't realize as being important, possibly, or not? But what do you think about the experience now? How do you think it might have changed your work or added to the way that you present your work?
Yeah, like I said, it changed a lot with each repetition. Each time it gained something new, or it reversed a mistake I did just by trying to perceive the work through a different point of view, depending on the niche, depending on the reviewer, depending on each aspect of the work. So in the end, I think the most important thing I've gained is just a lot of boost in my confidence by speaking, by networking and all that. And then that critical thinking and critical approaching of work in a more professional manner. Yeah.
Can I ask you a bit more about that? Just because I think it's an important point. How do you kind of describe, or how would you define a professional manner? What do you feel that is? I think that's an important point, really.
Well, at my university, I've put a lot of input into the academic research, which might be of advantage here, but in the professional world, it's most likely more about the work and how you portray that idea you try to showcase. yeah, I don't want to say that research becomes less essential, because it is, but it's not really that important to show it in that environment at that time. You lose a lot of time, precious time, that could benefit in other aspects of the practice.
I mean, I think that's really quite good and sound advice, really. I mean, again, obviously, as everyone involved in APHE or teaching photography higher education knows, that we do obviously ask the students a lot about research and academic practice. And I think that the point you just made, that there's a time and a place to be able to discuss that.
Yeah.
And I think that doing a portfolio review, yes, you may be touching on it, but to talk about it in too greater detail.
Yeah, that's right. Because my work, for instance, has a lot of research in it. A lot of academic writings, which somehow make the work, it gives another essence if you include that perception.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, great stuff. I mean, we could talk about this for much longer, much longer, really. But I think in terms of, is there anything else that we haven't had a chance to talk about your experience of doing Photomeet? Do you feel there's anything else that you could viewpoints you could offer?
Well, I think just to waste your time like I did in most of the times in between the reviews was just to focus too much on the work again, and it always loses a little bit of its solidity, which I would advise to avoid in this sense. Just go ahead, do your thing, and make the best out of it.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I think that's a good point at which to draw a close to the interview. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think your insight is really interesting. It's a very sort of personal approach to and very refreshing approach to the way that you dealt with a situation that a lot of people at sort of at undergraduate level, I think, would find particularly it's quite daunting, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, and I think that's why having that experience and learning from it, which you clearly have done, is great that you've shared it with us. So thank you once again, Cristian.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. So this morning's that ends this morning's or this afternoon's now hangout. And again, once again, thank you, Cristian, for sharing your ideas and experiences. Thank you all for joining the hangout. I hope you can join us for the next hangout, which will be coming quite soon. And the details will be available through Twitter and our APHE website. So for now, I'd like to say thank you very much once again, and finally to Cristian and everybody else for listening this morning and in the future. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.